of the delta. They're downstream from where the fish normally live, where they normally propagate, and we're being blamed. And there's no sharing. Recently at the court hearing in Fresno, court records show that since the state and federal pumps came online, 68% more water has been developed and diverted from the delta over and above what the state and federal pumps take. So, in other words, Southern California, starting at Tracy, 32% of the water. From new facilities like Don Pedro, Los Vaqueros, New Melones, 68%. This is not being considered in any of the lawsuits that are being provided to the courts. They're very specifically targeted towards our water, the state and federal pumps. And the power politicians in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I'm talking about George Miller, Nancy Pelosi, Barbara Boxer, Dianne Feinstein, have co-opted the Federal Endangered Species Act in conjunction with changes made in the Central Valley Project law called the Central Valley Project Improvement Act to simply shut down our pumps and take our water. There's no new water been developed for the state and federal pumps. These are contracted supplies. We cannot exceed our contracted supplies. We have been continually reduced for the last 10 years. Not only have we been continually reduced, the decline in the smelt population, the decline in the salmon population have gone along with the reduction of our water supplies. Now, I need somebody, and at the same time, being an avid salmon fisherman, they've curtailed the salmon fishing. Now, what's the definition of insanity? I mean, I think this fits. So. Or her assessments for sure. So, anyway, with that.
Like 2 minutes. 2 more minutes?
2 more minutes? Okay. I can talk forever up here. It's not a problem. I'm going to talk a little bit about the water bond. We have the California water bond that's coming up for election in November. What is in that water bond that they haven't made people aware of is the destruction of 4 dams on the Klamath River in Oregon. We need to get rid of the dams, right? We don't need any more water. And when you go through, there are potential projects in that water bond, but it has to go through the appropriations process. So in other words, those projects are there, but there's no funding directed towards them. So it goes right back into the political morass in Sacramento to be fought out for whoever gets what projects. To me, that's what we're voting for is to give more money to the general fund. You know, there's no new water development from Tracy south. So Southern California has no guarantees of any new water development. One of the key features that has some of our neighbors down there kind of thinking it might be all right, it's called the intertie. And the intertie is a canal that is going to connect the Delta-Mendota Canal, a major source of water coming from the Delta, and the California Aqueduct, another major source coming from the Delta. The difference is the Delta-Mendota Canal also connects to the San Joaquin River. And so it makes it easier to move water from one side of the valley to the other side of the valley. It creates no new water. I call this rearranging the chairs in the Titanic. Okay. Thank you very much. It's been a great audience.
I think he could probably recite this information in his sleep. This was it, his notes right here. That's all of that information. And you're going to get more. By the time you leave here, you're going to understand this water situation. And thanks to Piedad Ayala, this is being recorded, videotaped, so we can put it on the web. You can drive people to it. It's really important. Water is life. Without it, we can't live. Our next speaker, Larry Easterling. He is going to talk to us about how Congress created the water crisis, and he is going to use his own farming operations as an example, and he'll talk about the water crisis, how it's affected his farming operation, and other fish species as predators on smelt and salmon. So he'll enlighten us on all of that. Larry Easterling is a pistachio farmer in the State Water District in the Central Valley. Did I do you justice there? Yes? Good, great. So please welcome Larry Easterling.
Presentation?
No.
No?
No.
All right.
Thank you, Martha. It's a pleasure to be here. I always kind of jump at the opportunity to get up in front of a bunch of people who are really as concerned about water as we are, who farm land in the San Joaquin Valley. I'm going to give you an insight into an actual farming operation and how we are managing to survive under the most direst of situations. In that, I think you could pretty much summarize an average farmer's vocation in life as being with an entrepreneur standing behind the controls. And one of the reasons we become entrepreneurs, of course, is that we feel we have more control of our own destiny. And of course, you've got to look hard at becoming a farmer these days, especially considering you're up against Mother Nature's whims, okay? But for 40 years now, I've been farming pistachios since 1970, and we've seen it all. We've seen natural droughts, which we have survived. We've seen hail, if you will, during the harvesting time when all the nuts, are not all of them, but most of them are knocked to the ground, and you can't get the equipment in to even get them because it's so soggy. There's insects, there's all kinds of things. There's too much heat in the wintertime. I mean, in the summertime, actually, pistachio trees, if it gets over 100 degrees, and I was interested in learning this myself, I didn't realize it, they actually just kind of shut down. They just kind of sit there. They don't do anything. They don't grow. They don't wither. They don't do anything. But the constant heat, the average heat over in the San Joaquin Valley is probably somewhere around 95 degrees, and they love it. They originally come from the country of Iran, and we now have brought our production in 40 years up to the point where we are challenging Iran for the leadership in the world for production purposes. We'd actually be there now if it wasn't for the water problem. But to go back here to our particular ranch, and I want to emphasize one thing. I know you probably see in the papers these percentages that are put out as far as the amount of water we're going to get. And our ranch, by the way, is totally dependent upon the State Water Project. You people here, if you're a member of the